This podcast is with Christain Wallace. Christain Wallace grew up in Paradise Valley, Montana. He is a professional welterweight MMA fighter. He has a purple belt in jiu-jitsu. He has a 3-1 amateur record and a 2-0 professional record. We discussed growing up in a unique religious environment and how he reconciles the positive and negative aspects of growing up in that environment. We discussed his journey to becoming the man he is today by going through difficult experiences. We talk about his time in the military. Christain explains what he learned from his parents as a young adult. And Christain talks about his transition from the military to becoming a professional coach and a fighter. We really enjoyed this conversation with Christain, and we hope you do as well.
Yeah, we're golden.
Okay.
Good to go.
Nice.
Clear as mud. Chris, where are you from? Where were you born?
Oh, yeah. All right. So, yeah, I'll give you the spiel. So I was born in Dublin, Ireland. My dad and mom are Irish as well. All my family is back in Ireland. And I immigrated to the U.S. when I was about 5. And pretty much lived in Montana from that point forward. But, yeah, so I have a lot of roots rooted in Ireland. I'll go back there every once in a while to visit the family. And yeah, that's technically my home.
Do you remember much from being there?
Nah, not really. I mean, obviously when I visit, I visited when I was 12, 18, and about 25. So I have lots of memories from that point. When I was 5, I remember maybe just like playing in the trees, smacking bushes with sticks is about the only thing I remember. Yeah.
What were your family's motivations to come to the U.S. besides?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. So my dad is from, hello, Bodie.
Sorry about that.
My dad is from Belfast, Northern Ireland, which is a very Protestant, rough area, especially in the 70s. And then my mom's Catholic, raised in the Dublin, South of Ireland area. So their families kind of hate each other through the religious ties for whatever reason. I don't really even know too much of the differences between Protestant and Catholic, but it's a very big deal there.
There's a lot of terrorism between the two groups going on.
So my dad, he's 75, so he was alive during what they call the Troubles, which was a period in the 70s where the Catholics and Protestants were at war with the IRA.
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, my dad had a lot of gang violence with the IRA coming into his area and, shooting people, stabbing people, shooting up their houses, things like that. And so he was already kind of on a ticket to wanting to be out of Belfast when he was real young. He didn't get into, he didn't like the political or religious battles. And, my mom and him met at like a conference in England, which was for this religion called Church Universal and Triumphant. And it's kind of a melting pot of religions, which started, I believe, in California, but they sent people over to Europe to recruit. And so my parents met, at the seminar. And
what was it called?
It's Church Universal and Triumphant. Yeah. Okay. And so it's like a melting pot of all the different faiths, and it goes pretty deep. And they moved away from Ireland because they didn't want to be around the families that disliked each other and still kind of had those faith differentials, and and that hate between those factions kind of made it difficult, I think, for them to really fall for each other. But they didn't even fall in love for a while. They were in the church out in Montana. Like that's where the headquarters started being generated.
Okay.
So they both like questioning their religions?
Yeah.
They were at this.
Mm-hmm. My mom went to like a nun Catholic school. So, they were having her do all kinds of heinous stuff, like drinking warm milk and weird punishments. My dad would get like beaten for being left-handed, saying the devil, it's a sign of the devil to have, a lefty. Things like that. So, yeah, so they were already kind of like, this is sus. And
I think that combined with just like the violence that was around them. Like, let's get out of here.
There was a lot. Yeah. So but before they even fell in love, they were both kind of on that path to trying to find some spirituality that made sense to them, away from violence and things like that. And so eventually that led to them, being in Montana and, marrying. But yeah.
That's cool, man. It's like you started that off with a banger, dude. Like all of a sudden, like born out of the country, and your parents kind of have a super interesting story.
Yeah.
Of like, that I don't know a lot about it at all. I really don't know anything about it except for I've seen, like a few clips or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
About all the bombings and the IRA. And Belfast in particular. Like when you say Belfast. Never been there, super uneducated about, Belfast in general, but I think like those troubles immediately. Like I think car bombs and a lot of violence, right? And that's probably just from the media that I know, but I can't imagine that living in that environment was a good one.
No, my dad's got stories for days. I mean, and he had several occasions where he'd be outside of a bar or something and somebody would hold a gun to his head or and be like, are you Protestant or Catholic? And he'd have to like think about where he was like in regards to the border and be like, I'm this, to save his life. Like, I'm a Protestant. And they're like, okay, you're good. And like a couple run-ins with death, just based on, where you grew up. So he was already kind of on his way to wanting to be out of that place for sure.
That's a great reason to leave.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I like to think like I'm a little bit of like a forbidden love child, because they just, that
Chris, the forbidden love
child. They're just not big on that over there. The melting there.
Were your folks married there or they married here?
They married here. The reason I was born in Ireland, I'm just going to tell the story, but my mom, I think she got busted for like weed in the 70s, like in the hippie.
Hey, Mom, it's no big deal.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mom. Love you very much. And, but anyway, like something very small misdemeanor. But when her visa got popped, like she had a hard time when she was pregnant getting approved to become an American citizen. So she had to have me in Ireland. And then I had to, while she was trying to get her visa sorted out, I was essentially in the womb, and then took 5 years before I was eventually able to come back over here. So they lived in the US for a decent period of time.
Got it.
Yeah.
And they've been in Paradise Valley since they've been here?
Yeah. So I grew up out in the Paradise Valley, which is like 30 minutes from Yellowstone National Park, and gorgeous area. Really, really lovely childhood out there, because just playing in the river, playing sports outside, riding bikes around. It was just a really good place to grow up.
That would have been the 90s roughly when they got there?
Yep. 92 I was born, and I think through about 97 we were building houses. My dad, he was a full-time plumber. He ended up just picking up all the job skills, throughout being on job sites to build his own house. And so he started building houses and flipping them. And he's probably built about 16 houses out in the Paradise Valley since he moved out here. And that's how he provided.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So your mom and dad still have an accent?
They do. Yeah. Thick.
Cool.
Yeah. Fairly thick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't even notice it as much as other people, but people are like, oh, whoa.
Yeah.
I don't know how I don't have one at all, but yeah.
Okay. Brothers, sisters?
Yeah. So I have a little sister, Kira, and she's 6 years younger than me. She's awesome. She was born in America, but again, full Irish. Yeah.
Nice.
Full-blooded Irish. And so we had a pretty small family, really, like, because we didn't go see my family out in Ireland often. So it was just kind of our like small group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's got to be tough for your parents, right? Because, they packed up and left.
Mm-hmm.
They probably wanted to go back and visit in some part of them wanted to go back and visit. Part of them probably was like, hey, we don't want to go back. So they're probably torn.
Yeah, 100%. My dad doesn't talk to his siblings or anything like that. But my mom's side, I met, many times, and they're very lovely people. And, I get to go back and visit them every once in a while. And it's a big side of her family. So every once in a while we'll go back. But they're pretty happy just where they are now,
Cool.
Yeah.
Was it through the church or the religion that they ended up in Paradise Valley?
Yeah, so the church is in it's right next to Yellowstone Park. It's if you guys ever drive down to Yellowstone Park, there's like a hot springs there now.
Yeah.
If you turn into that hot springs, just down the road is the headquarters ranch. Okay. They call it the ranch. Yeah. And yeah. And so that was kind of an interesting upbringing too, because it was a very unorthodox religion. And there's a lot of people from all across the world. Like a lot of my parents' best friends were from Holland, Scotland, Sweden, things like that, Finland, all across Europe. And we had a very small community out there. But it was nice. It was a good upbringing. By the time I had hit 6th grade, it was getting weird for me, because I was in a private school called Thomas More, which was essentially that religion being pushed down my throat for a long time. And, much like my parents, I was not a fan of, people pushing their ideas down my throat. And I didn't feel like I was growing as a person because it was a very small class. I had 8 people in my class, you know what I mean? And they'd make you, it was, let's see, I guess you don't know. It would be, it would be.
It's funny that you didn't like, people pushing things down your throat, and now you choke people out for.
Yeah, I know. And now I absolutely force my will upon people.
Take that.
Yeah. Trauma from your childhood. Getting revenge
Taking
on everybody now.
Yeah. And, so that was definitely, it was an interesting experience. Like Zodiac stuff. They'd push all kinds of star stuff and just weird philosophies kind of mixing to mostly for me it was the social weirdness. We didn't get to socialize with kids that were kind of having normal upbringings as much, so I wanted to around the 6th grade switch schools to a public school, and I did, and I was happy that I did because it probably made me a little less weird.
Sure.
Yeah, socially I think the kids that ended up staying in that school probably had a hard time adapting later in life.
Your folks didn't have any opposition to you?
They were really cool. They've always been really cool about it. They probably from their upbringing didn't want to push me one way or the other. And, I think that people should always get to experience their own spirituality and discover it for themselves. I don't know how well it works when people are forced into something.
Usually it's not good.
Yeah, usually you reject it so hard that you become a rebel of.
I feel like it comes back some way or another, whether it's 5 years from then or 30 years from then.
Yeah.
Or you manifest in a person.
Yeah.
Somehow, anyway. Do you think before we started the podcast, we were talking about soccer and how you enjoy that and got into that. You think those folks that you were saying they're kind of from all around the world had any reason kind of behind that?
For sure. Yeah. So, soccer was the sport, in all those countries and across the world, that's the biggest sport. So I grew up, my parents did put me in baseball and t-ball and all that shit. And I just ended up playing soccer once and was just kind of good at it. So, you kind of stick with what you're decent at.
Sure.
And it was the first time I felt oh, I'm good at something. And so I just kept doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but it definitely had the European influence for sure.
Sure.
Because the community built soccer fields and things like that out in the Paradise Valley so that we could play all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Was there anything from the religion or the upbringing that you'd say was positive?
Yeah. I don't want to totally I'll give you the positives and then I'll give you some of the negatives real quick. So the positives I would say is the message generally was a positive one, right? Because it promoted a little bit of the good values from each religion. There wasn't this idea of one religion being wrong and right. And so there isn't this constant fighting of who's right and wrong. And then the idea of karma in the Hindu religion, I think spoke to me at a decent level and always gave me a good foundation with treating people the way you would like to be treated and, essentially doing good deeds and allowing the universe to give those back to you in another way, So I think that fundamentally, I learned some good things as a baseline from just how to treat people and how not to judge people for their beliefs. So I would say that ethically, I had a decent foundation. And then I would say the part that really like bummed me out and still bums me out sometimes is they got a little bit carried away they got pretty carried away, in my opinion, with like doomsday, like the end of the world. So I remember Y2K hit, the computers crashing or whatever in fucking 2000.
Everybody's fearful.
Yeah, 100%. So we fucking spent the night in a bunker, with candles and shit. And we had like, food supply and all that, like loaded up. And, they felt like that the church kind of felt like it was, something horrible was going to happen. And they did this several times. Like they built bunkers and bomb shelters and had guns and all kinds of stuff to where like local Livingston people and like ranchers and stuff were like, what is this? What's going on? Like there's a militia in our, area, and they're buying up lots of land, the church was. And so, and then constantly preaching that it was going to be the end of the world and things were going to crumble down. And I just don't have, I don't like to dwell on things like that and be fear mongering in my life. Like I like to be prepared as best as I can. Like I like to try and hunt for my food, try and learn to fish, try and I'm trying to get better about like what I eat. Maybe trying to learn to grow things myself and be like, just healthier in that aspect. But that's completely in my control, and that's enjoyable and a healthy life choice. I don't feel like that's fearing for the end of the world.
Yeah, there's a difference between like self-reliance and independence versus, hey, you're scared of all these kind of extreme events.
Yeah, it's like so it felt like QAnon before QAnon was happening. Like it was like, oh dude, there's fucking it's about to be the end, and the Hollywood pedophiles are coming for all of us. And, so it's just always something. So some of the kids that like grew up in that time period, like developed a little bit of like a phobia for the end of the world. Like, oh gosh, things are going to get bad. And I just made a decision, at one point that it wasn't me. It's not me to like tell people like things are bad, you better get ready. And things are coming. You don't know, because I just don't like pushing.
But you better get ready.
Yeah, you better. But I'm not saying it's going to be the end of the world, but it's going to get bad, and like you should have a tunnel underground. And so I just didn't like that. There's this constant idea of the sky is falling, and it just never left. It was like a constant thing. And some of the older people that are still in that church, like there's not young people joining the church. It's a lot of older people now, just still like, oh, the Mayan calendar, that was one.
30 years later,
dude,
the sky still hasn't fallen.
I'm checked out. You start telling me the end of the world's coming, I'm checked out.
Yeah, so I guess that outweighed, you're like, hey, look, I'm done with this. Like that outweighed the positives.
Yeah. I don't like being afraid. And things tend to work out,
Yeah. Especially if you have a decent attitude.
Yeah, if you have a good attitude, like and
that the world's gonna keep going on.
Yeah, I do.
Or at least the optimism.
Yeah, absolutely. I hate the idea of living in fear. And we live in a great country where you can. I think the best you can do is to be prepared for any bad thing, is to positively affect your community. You know what I mean, and be a good person and keep your community strong. And that's what I feel like I'm kind of doing now with my life, is trying to be a positive influence in my community and not dwell on all the bad things that might happen.
Yeah, it's very well said.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll stay away from like the hyperbolic language.
So if, not to dwell on this, but if Y2K obviously didn't turn out the way a lot of people thought it would, what would their reaction be? Or their...
Yeah, I mean, some people, like, it ran down their credibility. You know what I mean? Like it ran. So there's a prophet that was a head of the church, and she kind of like would speak, and she was being channeled, through God. That's what she would say. And then she got ill and passed. And then, then of course there's a bunch of like prophets that tried to hop in. And that was weird.
No, I'm not on the prophet now.
Yeah, like I'm super in touch with God too, though. And like, she was actually very like charismatic, and it was believable for a lot of people. But once all those people tried to hop into the role, my parents, like, they wrote a bunch of like letters to these people, like saying like, you're crazy for trying to do this. And my parents got kicked out of the church. And it was they just kept losing credibility. Every time you say the sky's falling, it's like the boy who cried wolf. So eventually I think a lot, like 70% to 60% were just like, I'm out. And then it was like this small faction of people that still were like, like this year might mean something.
Yeah.
I withheld all my sexist comments about it being a female prophet. I was like, I'm already. She had no credibility.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah,
I didn't want to insult anyone's religion, but
yeah. It was she had a husband, and he was, I think, the head, and then he died, and then she was the head. Anyway, it just kept going to that point, and I think the people that are still involved with it now, they mean well, and they don't, they do it for personal spiritual reasons that make them feel good, which is fine. You know what I mean? I'm past the point of wanting to listen to anybody tell me that the end of the world's coming again. It's like this election cycle, they're probably spewing that same stuff. And I'm out.
They actually might be right after this election cycle.
Yeah, that was wild. I heard Biden stepped down today.
We actually need to get our shit together.
Yeah, it's a little wild, dude.
Actually, we need to get in that bunker right now.
Yeah, it's bunker time. Yeah, maybe now it's bunker time.
Can you send me the coordinates for that bunker?
Yeah, dude, I got you. It's bunker time. In November. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm not going to the bunker. I'm out. The only time we would go in the bunker was we just, like, when we were kids, we just go smoke weed in the bunker.
That's awesome.
Real use it got from us.
Hot box the bunker.
Hot box the bunker.
It works great as a fucking.
That could be a podcast in itself. Hot box in the bunker.
Yeah, dude, you could do
Dude, we should. Yeah, can you hook us up?
So we have
we're going down there. We're setting up the studio down there.
It would be sick because
we're getting high.
It's in my backyard. I had a manhole going down underground about 7 feet, and then it was a subterrane, so it was a small submarine. It, like, oval shaped. Just had a bed and like a bathroom and like a little table and like a couch, and that's it.
Cool.
Yeah, man, it was pretty cool.
Were the walls concrete?
I don't know. Yeah, concrete. Yeah, it was cool. It was cold down there in the summer. Bet. Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
So yeah,
get out of this heat. That'd be a good place to go right now.
That's the next studio, dude. We'll get you in there.
Sick.
Yeah. I think with religion, I grew up going to church, and nothing was too overbearing or forced. But my thought is always the phrase, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah,
there's some good I took from it, and
for sure
a lot of it I hated and rebelled against because I just was forced to be there.
Yeah, I think forcing people is it's against the human spirit to be forced into anything, and now I feel quite tied with Christianity, and like I still have like a faith in a belief system because I think it is a net benefit to my life, and I'm, as long as I'm not forcing it on people and I'm just living by that virtue of being good to other people, I think that that gives me a lot of internal solitude. And so I definitely see the big benefits of religion. But again, when it's forced down your throat, it's an L.
I think if you don't, and I don't have I don't have a religious background or anything right now, but if you don't believe in anything, it's kind of depressing.
Yeah.
It's like you don't believe in the future almost.
I know.
It doesn't even have to be a religion, but it's some sort of belief that these things will work out or life will get better.
Then you get nihilist people that are just dead-eyed monsters, they're just like, they don't.
Everything's fucked. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
There's no purpose.
Yeah, there's no point in being nice to somebody because we're on a fucking rock and whatever.
Yeah.
And the way I look at it sometimes when I'm trying to explain like that, it's just how perfect the universe works. Like in the idea of duality, you know what I mean? Like when like you have, it's summer, right? And then, or whatever, and then you have your winter, the sun goes down and then the moon comes up and it's cold and dark. Like there's all these opposites, the fires, like quelled by water. All these things that like these small, like universal things that there's like the yin and yang. There's like two sides to everything. The balance is like too perfect for me to be like, that's an accident. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the balance is absurd. And, even like back in the day, like everything that God created or that has been created, we don't even have to use the word God, like has multi-purposes. Like even if your fruit goes bad, that's how they discovered alcohol, right? And like then you can have some fun.
That's how you know there's God.
Yeah, that's how you know, dude. That's how the Irish knew. The potatoes went bad and they're like, what do we do? We'll make a little whiskey. And there you are. Yeah, but
Hallelujah.
Yeah. So for me, it's just like the sheer concept of duality and like a yin and yang ideology. Like you can look at everything as being so balanced and perfect in its operation that it doesn't make sense to me that it could be an accident. So I'm a believer.
I think of that all the time because I grew up on a farm too, and you see so much life and death and seasons. I always just think, something has to die for new life to go on, and you see this sort of cycle of seasons, and
that's a great example of that.
Yeah.
Like that's 100%. Like when one season passes, there's a whole bunch of other work you have to do to operate for the next part of the season, and it all works in just a beautiful kind of I guess duality or in synchronicity with each other, all these different elements. So
especially if you live somewhere like here where you really see the seasons. The evolution of.
Yeah, dude. That's why I left California. I was in California when I was in the Marine Corps, and I was just like, dude, it's the same thing. It's so nice, beautiful.
Were you in San Diego?
San Diego, dude, which is
Pendleton.
The best. Yeah, Pendleton, and it was sick for sure, but I missed the mountains and I missed the seasons. And you were by the ocean, but I didn't go to the ocean that much. You know what I mean? Like the beaches were crowded and the water was fucking cold and the surfers like hogged their turf and I didn't get to surf because it sucked.
Yeah.
So, it was like, I just missed the seasons and I missed that like.
There's no seasons in San Diego.
Yeah, you can almost like change like parts of your life based on the seasons and like in that I think that helps you develop like deeper parts of your character. For me.
That's all. I try to think of the seasons of my life as in a year or a week or a day.
Yeah,
because there's just certain times when you're working a lot, summertime, and you're putting money away, and then it's wintertime, and you're trying to reap everything that you reap your harvest.
Yeah, dude.
But if you think about
buy some fucking toys.
Yeah, you just there's
reap that harvest, dude.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, summer's grind time, dude. And so I missed the season, and I think it does give you that like passing of the torch to like, I can chill a little bit now, and like
now it's dark at 4:00 instead of 10:30.
California is like it's just clockwork, like traffic, lines everywhere, fucking people that don't like know you because there's no community. Like everyone's just kind of like rat raced out in their own little bubble. There's not that like small town community vibe like Bozeman. It's getting bigger, but it still feels like that to me. Like I'll run into people all the time and I'm like, oh, sick, you're still here. And there's still that sense of community here.
Yeah. Let's keep talking shit about California.
Yeah, dude. You know what? Yeah.
Do it.
But it was beautiful. But
fuck
seasons are better. Fuck that place. Yeah.
So after you got into public school, you went to school in Livingston?
Yeah, so Arrowhead first, which is in Prey, which is near Chico Hot Springs. It was this like it was a silo. It was like a grain silo that we went to school in. It was like, it was cool. Hard to imagine, but it was like tipped on its side and then they built a building around it. It was cool. Went there. And immediately I was so happy just to be able to be social. Just like let me get out of my shell a bit. And I, started doing stuff like became like student council president, which didn't mean shit, but made me feel good, and things like that. And then high school in Livingston, Park High School, which was fine. Yeah. It was kind of, a lot of my friends went to Bozeman because Park High had this reputation for being like a stoner school, lots of drugs. They called it Spark High.
Mhm.
So a lot of my like Valley friends I grew up with, they went to Bozeman High, and I went to Park High. And so
were you guys sparking up over there or what?
I resisted the peer pressure for a while. I was a very like, you know, like I was raised in a very
Sure.
religious kind of so it took me a while to get out of my shell, and then eventually I was peer pressured to the point of like, yeah, why not? And
Spark it up.
yeah, and I sparked like you know, and I'd smoked weed for like maybe 3 years. And when I joined the Marine Corps well, I'll just pause and I'll stay in high school for a second. It worked fine. Like, you know, I didn't really give two shits about school. I was really big into soccer. I went to South America for a soccer camp when I was there, and that kind of just opened the door to me being like, this is my passion. Like, this is all I care about, sports. So I just, you know, really tried to get as good as possible at soccer. And yeah, and smoking weed was not a good asset for that, but you know, everybody was kind of doing it on the team, and so that was just the culture. And
you were on a team in Livingston.
Yeah, and I became all state. So I wanted to become a professional soccer player out of high school. Leaving high school, I tried out for NIC, which is Coeur d'Alene's college, and I made their team, but I kind of ended up choosing MSU because I missed a lot of my Bozeman friends, and then I spent like 3 months at MSU before I was like, dude, I'm not good without adult supervision. It turns out, like, I was just a wild kid when I was 18. I got like 2 MIPs within that 3-month period, like at MSU. So where I was just like drinking and, you know, partying all the time, and I was like, I need a change like now, because I just like I couldn't handle it. Like,
did you know that? Like you could feel that with your intuition?
yeah, well, after the second MIP, I was like, yeah,
No,
dude,
I was told.
yeah, like, yeah, and I'm usually good at like hiding like some of the bad parts of my like personality, but I yeah, I felt it. I was like, I need to like be around people that are at least trying to be better, and like they're gonna square me away, and I need to like man the fuck up and really turn a corner. Otherwise, I'm just gonna be like, I'm not even good at school. So I'm not going to be a psych major and like all that. So I always wanted to kind of, you know, I had kind of fantasies of being like a, you know, a hero or whatever when I was younger, like I'm sure many people do. And like my hero that was out in the Paradise Valley was this guy, Micah Steinfeld, and he is now like a major in the Marine Corps. So he had joined the Marine Corps and left and gotten out of the Paradise Valley, which when you're in a small town like that, you know, my soul was kind of screaming to me like, hey, let's go and just chase like an adventure, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let's become a better person. And like, we'll leave everybody. I you know, I told my parents like I'm going to join the Corps, and they were like, nah, dude. And I was like, yeah. And same thing. I kind of told my friends, and they were like, dude, the military is like.
So what year
whack.
did you join the Corps?
2011. Yeah. So I was 18. I turned 19 in boot camp.
Yeah. So, I mean, your parents were probably thinking you're going to the Middle East, right? Because like that's what was going on then.
Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to be infantry. So I signed up for infantry, which is.
Yeah. What year would that have been?
Well, I mean, we started in 2001, right? In the Middle East.
Yeah.
And then we stayed there for a long time. But in 2000,
so this is like
it was still really hot.
Yeah.
It was still really hot in like 8, 9, 10, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It was still really hot over there.
It just started slowing down when I got in. So I, you know, signed up for infantry, open infantry contract. And dude, in boot camp, and this is kind of an embarrassing story, but it's the truth. I was immediately like, fuck, dude. Like my parents were so cool. They never yelled at me. They were just awesome role models. Like they're my two of my favorite people. And you know, so I had a really like good upbringing. And I do have a story I actually want to share about them. But I'll carry on this thought. So I'd never really been screamed at. And dude, I had these guys in my fucking face. I remember the first time I got yelled at, I was like, I need to go to the bathroom or whatever. And the dude's like, fucking you're supposed to say this recruit, like you're not supposed to refer to yourself as an individual. And I was just, dude, he's spitting.
He was like, what's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, and I was like, this dude's out of his fucking mind, and I'm coming from like a smoke weed, snowboard, soccer vibe. Like I'm like, yeah, whoa, dude, like what's your Montana, deal? Like, hey, dude, I'm kind of like lax. This is harsh in my buzz, but so he lit me up, and I was like, fuck, dude. And then I was pretty athletic, so I was able to stay under the radar for the most part of being a victim of the DIs. I was not their target. It was the weak people that were the target. And so I kind of skated through and found out my way of not being too noticed, but they still break you. They still find ways to break you. And I remember writing my and I just wanted to chill. I was scared. They were like, dude, wait, you think this is fucking bad? Wait till you get to the fucking infantry. You fucking 03 guys are going to hate your life. And I was like, I already hate my life. Right now, I'm going to hate it more. And so I wrote because we didn't have phones. I wrote my recruiter. I was like, dude, can I change my job to a fucking chef? Because that was the other thing is I was, you were so hungry all the time. And I was all I could think about was fucking food.
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, I'll just be a chef, dude. And he's like, no. So that's an embarrassing thing that I genuinely was like, I don't want to fucking do this infantry shit.
Yeah.
This is horrible. And then I'm so thankful that I obviously was not able to change my mind. And that is an example I would say to people, and a lesson that people should learn is that everything you want in a moment isn't necessarily the right thing for your character building and for who you're supposed to be and who you're to become. Right. And so for me, I almost went, if I had a choice, I would have been a fucking cook who's just throwing slop on a plate. No offense to cooks, dude.
You would have been eating all the food you were cooking.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. And no offense to cooks, but for who I am now, that would have been a very big misstep.
Yeah. You needed to go through. The hard things to make you who you are now.
100%. And I'm very happy that I am who I am. And through that hardship. So what I wanted wasn't nice, or wasn't what was supposed to be my path. And that's okay. And so I get put into the infantry, and then, and then that was the shit, because we were just shooting, the first year was one of the worst years of my life, because you're the bottom of the food chain. You have your lance corporals and your corporals just yelling at you. They live with you. They would fucking kick in your door at 3 a.m, drunk, make you do fucking push-ups and, all kinds of shit.
They're getting back from the bar.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I had to be their drunk, their designated driver. I was fucking driving around California.
Which is such a contradiction, right? Because they're kicking your ass, keeping you in line, and then you're supposed to respect this person and listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the dude shows up wasted, kicking in your door and just putting you through hell for no reason.
Oh yeah.
And you're this doesn't compute right now.
And not every leader is like that, but I had 4 or 5 guys that were just fucking constantly in my face and my friends' faces that just deployed to that battalion. And they were all kind of smoking every day and drinking. They were fucking horrible leaders. I mean, they were terrible. They scream. So if they're listening, fuck you guys still. And I mean, they were garbage. And they were just they weren't actually leaders. They were in a leadership position. They had served. They had went to Afghanistan.
Yeah.
And so it was technically a combat deployment. So they had combat action ribbons. But they didn't see any fire. They were dealing with IEDs, and it was no joke what they did. All respect to them, but they treated us like we weren't ever going to be worth anything. Instead of mentoring, they were just yelling at us all the fucking time. That's actually how I got into martial arts. Was I was we had a McMAP thing, which is Marine Corps Martial Arts Program, and our platoon went to this pit. It's a tire pit with just ground up tires that you're supposed to grapple in. And we got to finally grapple our seniors or our leaders. And like they were all smoking and drinking all the time. I was like an all-state athlete.
Yeah,
so
you're super good shape.
Yeah, so I finally got to like, and I didn't know anything crazy. I'd wrestled around with my friends growing up, but I was able to like put the boots to them for sure. So I was like, wow, this is like a way for me to stand up for myself. And so ever since then, I've loved martial arts, and it's just really a way of like feeling safe within yourself and secure. But yeah, so that was my kind of my like intro to like martial arts and things like that. I ended up getting my black belt in their Marine Corps martial arts program. Yeah, and but that didn't mean shit, because when I got out of the Marines and I got to the jiu-jitsu school at Montana MMA, I got my ass kicked so bad. Like, and I was like, okay, well, this black belt doesn't mean too much right now. So now I've been kind of just dedicated to getting my black belt the hard way,
Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so in the
So what did you do in the Marine Corps?
Yeah.
Because you kind of started with boot camp, and then but like what was that experience like?
Yeah, sorry if I'm rambling too.
No, this is good.
That's what we want.
Yeah, so I was a heavy machine gunner.
Okay.
And I didn't really get to choose that. They, I could fucking hike because I was from Montana. I had strong legs from soccer.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I was front of the line every time we'd hit like big hikes in California. The sea level too, compared to here when you're training out here, like it was so much different. And so I was, like just a pack mule when I was in infantry.
Yeah, when you go down to sea level, you're just like a rock star.
Yeah,
because you're like, dude, I'm no problem.
Yeah, so the machine gun instructor, when I was at infantry school, the first month they kind of pick what MOS you're going to go into. Like, oh, this dude's a fucking. If you're smart, like real, like book smart, they'll put you in as a tow missile guy, like a missileman, because they require all these like coding things, and the assembly is very particular and things like that. And then if you're kind of like a fucking knuckle dragger like me, who can move weight, then you were a machine gunner. And then if you were like, I don't know what,
literally because you could pick up heavy shit,
and
like carry it.
Yeah.
What years were you in Pendleton?
2011 to 15.
Okay. Yeah. It's interesting. You and I were there at the same time. So I built a hospital there.
No way.
The new one, the Camp Pendleton Hospital. I did finish that in.
That's a sick one.
2013.
That was getting built. I remember when I was in. That's where I did all my like outpatient stuff, getting out. But yeah, it was a great experience. Deployment wise, I didn't go see combat. I was in Southeast Asia, Philippines, Malaysia, Guam, Japan, South Korea. And we did a lot of cross training with other militaries. So like our deployments were essentially prepping for like war with China, right? So you'd be doing like sea to land operations with the South Korean military, our allies, as well as the Filipino military, also our allies. And they were currently in a civil war at the time. So we were just kind of teaching them some of our military tactics. And I did a separate deployment that was a 6-month stint in Australia, where we trained with the Australian military, and also prepping for a Chinese conflict, because they're right in that area as well. So that was a lot of my like work, was just training. There's a lot of training, because the combat kind of dried up in Afghanistan, and our unit just never got sent.
How's that work? So like, I'm curious about, like, you'd said that, the training was, if we were to go to war with China, like, how is that, like, how is that message down to you guys? Like, hey, we're going to go train with the Filipinos because, and we're going to teach them things. They're going to teach us things. We're going to go through different scenarios together.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How does that, because that makes sense to me. I guess totally, what I'm trying to understand is, like, how does the message come down to you guys of like, hey, this is also in a mock preparation for going to war with China?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't say directly that it was for conflict with China. They're just like, we need to create pretty much standard operating procedures between our allies within the Southeast region for, potential conflicts, right? Mm-hmm. So that just meant, like making sure the Australians and us like understood our, fire coordinations and things like that on the guns, and movement, so that we understand how we move. We understand tactically where we're trying to set up our, our points of defense and offense and all that stuff. Yeah. So it was cool. I mean, it was awesome to get to train with all these different militaries.
So it wasn't like explicitly indicated, but you guys, that's what you guys
China's our enemy in that region.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, you know, we went through all kinds of like jungle warfare training and things like that, getting ready for that specific region.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it was cool. And then, you know, being a heavy gunner, I got to shoot all the coolest guns in the military, like 50 cals, Mark 19s, 240 Bravos, just putting rounds down range. And that was fun.
When you were in like Southeast Asia or some over there, did you shoot any like rocket launchers?
So yeah, I've shot AT4, and then
that's a rocket launcher?
Yeah, it's like a bazooka essentially. Yeah, and the other guys,
because those, for whatever reason, like they use those over there all the time, right?
Yeah. So AT4 is one we got to use, and the missile guys, they stuck to the missile guys, which I was grateful for, because dude, each of those missiles was like $500,000, and like fucking dudes would miss. It's like a wire guided rocket, and they'd fucking miss, and everyone would be like, "You fucking suck, dude." And I was like, I don't even want that pressure. I'd rather have my fucking, you know, cheap ass 50 cal rounds just ripping down range.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was funny when they'd miss, and you'd see like everybody just disappointed with the amount of money that goes into even training on that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything's probably computerized now. Those kind of misses probably don't happen like that anymore.
Yeah. I don't know. The Marine Corps is probably the only branch that's on that bullshit. Like, they're on this cheap budget, which is part of their point of pride, is that they can operate with any type of equipment, you know, and that's part of why they're known as like the most dangerous arm of the infantry in the American military, right? So they can operate with shitty gear, which means they can pick up any gun and be a problem, you know, versus like if you're always operating on the best gear, you might not.
You can't go down.
Yeah. And you might not know how to fix basic weapons malfunctions, which is a big part of war and combat. Like, you're going to have malfunctions, right? When things are getting bonked around.
Yeah.
Fucking hit with, you know, artillery ammo. So, you know, the Marine Corps specifically taught me a lot about just like make do with what you have, and, you know, be good with even the cheap things, right? And make it work.
It's kind of like if you use your phone all the time and you get so dependent on it.
Yeah.
If you can't even navigate to get somewhere.
Yeah.
If you get so dependent on technology.
For sure.
Yeah,
that
dude.
applies to combat and weapons and any of that stuff.
I can't even imagine being in the Marines now and some Gen Z fucking kid trying to like do fucking land navigation, like with a compass. He's like, what? Just trying to like.
What
Google
country are you
it.
in right now?
Yeah. Hey, dude, tighten up. Yeah. So I liked that about it. And yeah, it was good.
Well, a lot of people not that much younger than us can't even read an analog clock.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to be efficient with bad equipment, man, because again, on that like world's gonna end thing, you don't know when even a power grid could be affected. So it's just good to be useful with things that aren't operated through AI / fucking the internet / electricity.
Yeah. Like mechanical stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
You were gonna, I know you said before, you were going to say something about your parents.
Oh yeah. I'll fill you in. Yeah, and that I think that'll just wrap up my Marine Corps fucking thing, right? So yeah, I wanted to share this story. It's like, so I love my parents. They, I think, did a great job with me and my sister, and this is just a fun story. So I was like into Pokemon cards and shit when I was like whatever 10, 8 to 10.
29.
So you were a loser.
Yeah, I was just on Dork Street, like on just straight up Dork Street, and you know, just like we'd be out, and like, oh, could I get a fucking pack of Pokemon cards? And you know, I could tell they hated it, and they did because they loved me, but you know, I could tell they just didn't like it at all, and like eventually, so I fucking slipped up and I was swearing at a friend's house, and his little sister told my parents, or told her mom, that I was swearing and using like foul language at the house. And I got back to my parents, and they were like, oh, well, your punishment is we're going to burn all your Pokemon cards. And like, dude, so we haven't, yeah, dude. So
like, we got to get these out of here.
Yeah, like, dude, they were just waiting for their moment. And I had
oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah, we had a wood stove in our house. And they fucking made me throw all my cards in the fire and my Game Boy in the
your
fire.
Parents are awesome, dude.
It was like, and in the moment you're like, I hate you, but dude, again,
cool.
like another example of like what you want in the moment doesn't always fucking mean that's who you're supposed to be, and you should take these lessons to heart. But yeah, so after like my whole supply and everything I built up with all the fucking cards had been burnt, I was just like, yeah, I guess I'll play outside, dude. And so like that's when I really developed into an athlete and loving like athletics in general. And so I thank my parents greatly for keeping me out of Dork Street 100%.
If anyone that does jiu-jitsu is listening to this, Christian really wants a Pokemon rash guard.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude.
That'd be sick.
Dude, I'll throw it in the fire and you can waste $50, dude. It can be fuel. Yeah. So
there you have it, parents.
Yeah. So that's just like a fun story.
You can burn your kids' crap.
Yeah. I felt like it was a good turning point for me because like, I was in that phase of like, wanting to play video games and like play with cards and, just not really like utilizing the gift of having a healthy
body. Especially like in a place that you lived. Right?
Yeah.
Like you lived in a place that's just like
majestic.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so why, to forego those experiences is like, oh my God, that would have been so bad.
Yeah. And so
they like literally like maybe the top 5 most beautiful place in the country.
Totally. Yeah. And so they saved my childhood early, and I think they were just waiting for that opportunity to burn my shit, and I'm glad they did. So yeah, that's just a fun story I wanted to kind of share about. Like, I think it was like a kind of turning point for me.
Was with the religion, was that no swearing, no drinking, no drugs?
Yeah, they didn't like the swearing, and no drinking, no drugs. But I had a drug phase, and my parents were like pretty cool about it as long as I, didn't lie. Like, I told my dad that I tried mushrooms and things like that, and he told me about his experiences. And this is when I was like 15. I had like a little bit of a psychedelic, time where I did a lot of mushrooms, and he kind of shared his experiences with me. And that made me not want to do them as much, because I was like, oh, these are all the bad things that like you find that like you might have this moment of bliss, right? But then you're always chasing that. And, you can experience these moments of bliss and like sheer ecstasy through hard work and like mastery of something and attainment. Like, and that goes for work, that goes for athletics, that goes for literally any like hard to achieve thing. Like winning a fight is like an ecstasy that surpasses anything you'll ever experience on a drug. The entire experience, right?
Yeah, I've only done jiu-jitsu competitions, but just the adrenaline from that.
Even that,
I can only imagine from an MMA competition.
And you don't have a hole like in your heart and soul. Like you fill that space with productivity and knowing that you did all these things to get to that point. And so you move forward, and you can be so proud of that for the rest of your life versus feeling something in a moment that you're just going to have to chase with using it again. And not to mention
like you didn't create it.
Yeah.
Like
you didn't do this.
You didn't create it. And maybe there's some guilt that you cut a corner in order to achieve that feeling.
100%. Yeah. And there will be guilt and shame that like you aren't capable of testing yourself to experience those like true valuable lessons and moments. Like you can experience these highs on a whole nother level when it's hard work and it's natural and it's not at a deficit of your body. You didn't cheat, you didn't cut corners, like you said. Like you achieve that through discipline and work ethic, and no one can ever take that from you for the rest of your life, versus you fucking put something in your mouth and you had a little couple hours of fun.
Yeah.
You know,
also the fact that he, told you he did it and didn't just shame you and like to say, hey, I've done this too, and it's a normal thing to try this and do it. And here's what could go wrong, though. Yeah,
exactly. He explained. Yeah, he has just one funny story he shared to me about acid, and this kind of sums up like psychedelics for me a lot. Is like he had one trip where he was taking a bunch of LSD with his buddies, in the 60s or whatever, and he's like, I'm gonna get like a notepad and I'm like write down all these cool thoughts I have, because you always have these like groundbreaking discoveries. And he like
he wrote down a bunch of bullshit.
He reads it after, and he said he literally wrote down stuff like, whoa, damn, crazy, you know what I mean? Like he literally wrote that shit down, and I was like, yeah, that's about what it is, because you think you're having these like profound thoughts and you're not,
Well, it's like when you're sober and you're around a bunch of drunk people.
Yeah.
And they're having so much fun. You're like, you guys are idiots.
Yeah, you're like, this is bad. Yeah, this is terrible.
Like, we just had this conversation 6 times in the last hour.
Yeah, like, dude, I know. Yeah, it's the worst. Yeah, so.
If you ever go to a wedding and you're sober and you watch everybody dancing out there, you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah, what happened?
Have any idea what you look like?
Yeah.
I'm glad you think you're having fun and feel cool right now.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's what it is. It's like you feel like you're having this experience that's like, changing your life. But dude, now it's so mainstream to like, people will go like do an ayahuasca fucking camp in like California, and it's like some stupid office building, and they have like a bullshit fucking shaman, and they're like, yeah, man, I just, I found out a lot about myself, and I'm totally different now, but I think I'm going to do another one in like a month or whatever, like I think next year.
It was only $1,400.
Yeah. Like
a day.
Yeah. And like these people are going to like end up just chasing this dragon that is like the opposite of what hard work and growth looks like. You know what I mean? It is self-destructive and
doing ayahuasca in an office building,
dude. Dude, everybody's a fucking shaman now, and like it's the drugs have gotten sophisticated to a point where people feel like they're easier to dose and things like that. But yeah,
I thought of this too before when we were talking about that. The interesting thing about Catholicism is I think they're not a fan of any drugs, but they're all like closet alcoholics too.
Yeah,
because they all drink a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
they just, I don't know, smash wine and beers.
Yeah,
everything else are like, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah,
everything else.
Yeah, and that's not okay. You can't like, and
there's one exception.
Yeah,
the drug
which is
choice.
alcohol.
Yeah.
That is. It's definitely contradictory.
Yeah, that's a big Irish thing. It's just like, just Irish people in general, like Catholicism and booze. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's one of those things where you don't want to tell people what's right and wrong and shove it down their throat all the time again. Like, especially when we all have vices, and we're all going through shit. And like the holier than thou attitude is never like, I never trust those people, because I've seen them my whole life, like be shitty to other people in plenty of circumstances, or they're waiting for their moment for someone to fail so that they can jump in and show their teeth.
Mm-hmm.
Typically when someone has the aura of someone who's just trying to look like a moral figure, they have that dark side of like getting ready to jump on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also coming off my last serious relationship being with a pretty serious Catholic chick.
Oh yeah.
I've got my scars still.
Yeah.
It wasn't even that long, but I just think of it all. I'm like, damn.
Was she like just?
She was just full son.
You
full
have to do this.
Catholic. There's so many things that were like so dogmatic and contradicted.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why is there an exception for this? And
yeah.
Anyway, it wasn't wasn't a long lasting thing. But it was,
okay. Yeah, and I think that going too far any direction is like I talked about, when you believe in God and you believe in what He has created and the balance that exists within it. I think that going too far in any direction is the opposite of like that polarity that we kind of need.
Like California. You just go all summer all the time. You can do that.
Yeah. You need like,
Depends on
yeah.
That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
There's the darkness with the light, dude. And you gotta like be honest about
balance,
it. Yeah. And so it's hard.
Both.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like there's both.
Yeah.
There's not one or the other. It's both.
Right. Exactly.
Sometimes there's a little more than the other. Sometimes it flips.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Okay, so let's talk about your martial arts kind of like career. So you went, you started that in the military.
Yeah.
No, I'm good.
Yeah, I'll do one more. Thank you.
So you started that in the military, and then how old were you when you got out of the military?
23.
Okay, so 23.
Mm-hmm.
Then what? You leave the military, and like what's your plan? You're coming back to Montana?
Yeah,
trying to figure that out.
So this is kind of a meaningful, I guess, period of my life I should talk about. And so I got out, and I didn't really have an idea of like what does like a knuckle dragging machine gunner have to offer the world.
Like I can use these weapons and pick up heavy things. Dude, what else am I going to do?
Strong and just kind of a bona fide knuckle dragger at that point. And so I ended up working security at the Yellowstone Club.
Okay.
And then I also worked security at Bar 9 in Bozeman. So my goal there was to do both of those and then also go to school and essentially like work my way up to bartender. I figured that would be a good move.
So you're going back to Montana State?
Yep. Okay. Yeah. So I went back to Montana State and I completed like a semester. And in that time period, I started bouncing at the bar, and that became quickly. I was the bar back, and then I was a bartender.
Okay.
And then I was kind of working my way through school a little bit, but I was also training at the MMA gym, and I kind of just like in my past, I preferred the athletic pursuits than I prefer the school pursuits. And I wouldn't even say intellectual, because I felt like I was reading philosophy and doing things on my own time that were beneficial to my intellect. Whereas when I went to school, I wanted to be a psych major, and I found that I was learning so much about people being at the bar and talking to every different type of person. And I felt like I could understand and work with people on a pretty high level. And
can we talk about like what'd you kind of like learn either about yourself or about people while you worked at the bar?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that I just learned how to communicate with them and not judge people, because a lot of people that are in that space, are they need a release, and they're there to escape, some of the hard things that happen in life. And I try not to judge people based on that, and just be nice no matter what, because you don't know what somebody's going through. I've had people when I was bartending tell me they were going to kill themselves, and I've talked them out of it when I was bartending. And I felt like I contributed in a good way to somebody's life, you know what I mean? And and then there's a flip side of that. Like, we talk about this duality, like there was also the side where I was a part of giving people that were like severe alcoholics their medicine, and it was hard to watch them destroy themselves. Like there was like a guy that he would get like fucking gout in his foot from drinking he would drink, like 8 vodkas every time he came to the bar every day after work. Get like gout in his foot, he'd like trip and break his arm, and you're just like crazy, like just dumb stuff where you're like, man, I'm contributing to this, and this is hurting my soul. There's the good moments, and the best thing that I took from the whole bar scene, I ended up managing the bar, so I also hired people, fired people. So people management and dealing with people, understanding them, and trying to be loving no matter what was probably the best thing that I learned from there. But at the same time, I was contributing to all the bad things that come with that lifestyle. And that was hurting me spiritually.
Sure.
Like, I felt shame many times from just, I was there for 5 years. So as it got toward the end, the shame was becoming more palpable and more overpowering than the feeling of I'm learning so much. I learned what I needed to learn, I feel. And, when I was looking to get out of the bar, one of my buddies, he was an Army Ranger. He got shot. He was in a bar fight. It was like a 3-on-3 bar fight, and I was like breaking it up in the parking lot, and I broke it up, and they kind of stayed in the parking lot, and we're like celebrating or whatever that they won the fight, and I was like, dude, there's a police station there, like you guys
right there, it's like 100 yards away, dude.
Can't be doing this, and then these guys come back with guns. Like one dude was dual wielding pistols, and I knew who the guy was, so because I'd been bartending, so I'd seen this guy before, and I like pulled my phone out because I was about 100 yards away from it. And I like got on the horn and I was like, yo, I think these guys are about to shoot people. Like they've got 2 guns. And as I'm on the phone, cracks off 4 rounds. My buddy gets shot in the leg, in the quad, and his other buddy gets shot.
Like in the alley behind Bar 9.
Yeah, in the alley behind Bar 9. And the other guy gets shot in the grazes through his ribs, misses his lung. And they run away. And I'm still on the phone. I was like, yeah, shots fired. And my buddy, it's super tough, Anthony Ramirez, shout out to him. I set the phone on his chest, and he starts calling in the ambulance, like, military style, like, yeah, this is gunshot wound here, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. And I pull off my belt and like tourniquet his leg, and I flip his buddy over, make sure the blood's not draining into his other lung. And, it's a clean break, just misses the lung. I take my shirt off, put it on. We get the ambulance in there. Then I spend the next like 7 hours talking to detectives and getting a hold of these guys. And we got the guy, and it's sad because he was like 21 years old. And, he's probably in jail.
All fired up.
Yeah.
Adrenaline,
drinking.
Not thinking straight.
Yeah, probably on drugs. And, he ended up, probably in jail for a long time. And it's sad because, I'm sure he was a fine person, and it just so many bad things going wrong at once when you're that age. And and so that was I was like, I put in my notice after that.
You're like, I don't want to work here anymore.
Yeah, I was like, and I had been in, and it was that feeling of like, dude, I was in fights all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't like hurting people. Like I like to fight. Like it's fun for me, but consensually, in a cage against someone who can fight back.
Yeah.
I don't,
and it's a competition, and like there's rules.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful art, and like there's all these other things that are great about that kind of a fight. I do not like the idea of people getting their heads bounced off the pavement and getting hurt, and their jaws broken, and all these horrible things that come with drunk fights, right? And I was seeing that all the time, and the jiu-jitsu that I learned was great because I never really had to hit anybody. I was able to secure people and wait till police arrived, or just escort them out of the bar, and they felt like they didn't want to come back in because they had taken the L, and so that was good. But that feeling of like something bad could happen every time I go to work was terrible. So like the bar, for all the great things that it was fun, met lots of people, good social skills, the overwhelming feeling that I was contributing to people, like ruining their lives to some extent. It's not my choice, but I just seeing people's lives like plummet was hard for me. So I eventually left, and I tried to bartend at a few other places just to make money when I was building this VRBO out in the Paradise Valley. And I had lost the desire to, and now I'm free of that.
Were you bouncing, or you were just?
Yeah, so I was telling him, when you're gone, that's when I got out of the Marines, I didn't have too many job skills.
Yep.
Besides like security and being a tough guy. So I just was like, all right, I'll just be a bouncer. And I bounced when I was in the Marines at a bar out in San Clemente, and so I was like, I'll just bounce. And so I started bouncing, and then got promoted to bartender, then manager. And then I quit.
And you're training at the gym during this time?
Yeah, and I had about 3 fights in that time period. So my amateur career was entirely like I was in the bar. So really, I didn't ever, because I was working as a manager, I didn't get a lot of time to train. So for the first like 4 years of me at Montana MMA, I was a white belt, didn't get my blue belt, was like kind of in, kind of not, like not fully dedicated. So when I finally got the opportunity that Brian gave me to help manage the gym and teach, now I've been able to put my focus into helping people get better at jiu-jitsu, and that filled that hole in my soul that was always like not there with, you know, the bar. Is just, I felt, you know, like an accomplice to, you know, hard things happening in people's lives, and that was hard. So now I feel like that void is being filled.
Did a lot of the guys that trained at the gym work at the bar too?
Yeah. So when I
like the MMA bounce.
Well, yeah. So when I started managing, I wouldn't hire anybody that I didn't think was like, you know, could fight. I was like, it's fighters and military guys, and that's it. And like, you know, you had to have jiu-jitsu or military, and like that was my hard rule on guys at the bar. I was like, you know, because it's like a lot of girls working there, and I didn't like the idea of like some bouncer just with no idea how to fight, like punching. The one guy that I worked with that didn't have jiu-jitsu, like ended up pummeling some dude's head, you know, like beating him, you know, and you're like,
what are you doing, dude?
Yeah,
you're like, that's unnecessary.
Out of your mind. Yeah, like this is crazy. And, you know, he probably got in a lot of trouble with the law, as he should have. Like, and so I was a big, like, you know, advocate of guys that kind of knew what they were doing in conflict resolution.
Yeah, being a bouncer seems like it'd be fun for like 1 hour one night, and
you'd enjoy it for like a summer, and then you're like, and then when you're like, oh man, I might, you know, when you're having like a chill ass day, like maybe you're having a day like this where you're just like, I'm doing stuff at home, I'm like hanging out, it's just a good day, and then you're like, oh, I have to go to the bar, and like my whole world,
that would stress you out.
Yeah, it's stressful.
Yeah, because then you're like, I'm literally only involved in this operation when shit goes wrong.
Yeah, 100%.
Other than that, I don't do anything.
Yeah. You're just like, dude, this is, yeah. And so it became more like, you know, I just was like dreading like something bad happening. Yeah. You know,
I feel, and this, I'm totally generalizing and not trying to shame anyone who's like a full-time security guard or bouncer, but it seems like the guys that do it their whole life are just always like kind of excited for conflict and like kind of pissed off. So they're like, I can't wait for someone to be mad at me.
Man, I hate that. That's sad. Like, you know, and when I was 18 and I was very stupid, obviously I had those 2 MIPs. You know, I wanted to go combat and I wanted to like get some and get in the violence. And like, dude, I'm so happy that I didn't have to kill another human being. Like, just because I don't know if like who I am now could ever cope with that, that feeling, and just not knowing if I was doing it for the right reason or what, you know what I mean? And so, and the same thing with like bouncing is like, I never wanted to have to put hands on people, but it's like you're putting hands on other people, and like I have to deal with you, and like, you know, as I've gotten older, I guess I'm getting softer, but I don't want to hurt people. And there are people like that end up in police, obviously not all of them. In fact, most police guys I know are fucking awesome people with good ethics and moral structure. But there are people in security and likewise in the police that they get that position of power, and it triggers that need to use it, you know.
And yeah, I'm obviously completely biased, but all the people that are in law enforcement from our gym have that humility. Just because you've had your ass kicked by enough people that are half your size and twice your age and everything else, that you don't just want to go around hurting people to make yourself feel better about yourself.
And that's a big benefit to martial arts, I would say, is that you don't take yourself as seriously. You know that there's, you know, a chance that anybody could hurt you, and that you should treat everybody with respect, and whether they train or not, you know what I mean? And it is, that needs to be everybody's priority, you know what I mean?
You should look around our gym and realize that a lot of people you see there are the most unassuming people.
Yeah, they're a very mixed group of people.
Who's this dork? Oh, that dork that could murder you in about 5 seconds with their bare hands.
There's lots of dorks that will absolutely break your leg.
Like the owner of the gym?
Yeah. Yeah, he's an absolute, like, just...
Shout out to Brian the dork.
Yeah, he absolutely unassuming.
She's like, I kick a heavy bag. You're like, oh,
Yeah,
okay.
it's
All right.
terrifying. Yeah. I've been dropped by, the only people I've been dropped by, it's like Brian, Kevin Ross, and Gage. And like all those dudes just, they can hit.
Brian kicked me in the face with a spinning back kick.
Yeah, dude. Ugh.
Not hard. It could have been a
man.
lot harder if he wanted it to be, but it's just like...
He was telling me he's like dropping people with this liver kick, and he like uses his toe to get under their guard. Like, so oftentimes people will use like the whole sole of their foot, which is like a large kind of area to block. So he'll use his toe. He'll extend his foot, use his toe to get underneath the elbow and find the liver. Which I was like, that's the scariest thing I've heard.
If the liver's hit right, people go down.
Yeah, dude. Ugh. Yeah. So yeah, and then so since I left the bar, then I ended up at the gym, and since I've become a professional fighter, and now I am solely just trying to help other people get to that level of like internal confidence, humility, respect, chasing a goal. And like, that's my passion. And I don't feel like I'm doing a disservice to my community as I did before. And, that's going to be my life moving forward. Since that, everything's kind of gotten better. I met my wife, Ashley. And you guys should actually have her on. She's got an amazing story. So
We'd love to.
Yeah, she was hit by a semi when she was 20, and her neck
semi-truck.
Yeah, semi-truck, like head on, and her neck and hip and her arm were broken, and she's been in and out of the American healthcare system, like trying to self-advocate for herself for 9-10 years, and she has like a crazy positive outlook on life despite all her all the hardships she's gone through. And so she's a very, very powerful person that I think you guys would learn a lot from if you had her on as well. And
how did you guys meet?
Yeah, so when I left the bar, I left to build a VRBO out in the Paradise Valley for my family. We were gonna make it like a bed and breakfast, essentially. It was a big lodge. And so I went, and I was just full-time down in the valley. And so I was kind of going, she grew up in the Livingston area, but she went to a different school, which is good because I don't think she would have liked stoner fucking dork Chris back in high school. So Pokemon Chris, shred the gnar and hit the pipe Chris. Yeah. And so, yeah. And like, anyway, she went to Shields Valley. And so I was like, at Mark's In-N-Out, which is that burger joint down in Livingston. Mm-hmm. And
shout out to Mark's In-N-Out.
Shout out to Mark's In-N-Out.
Love Mark's In-N-Out.
Shout out to Mark's In-N-Out.
Get the marshmallow shake.
Yeah. And back when I had an Instagram, I'd like, whatever, shared it on my fucking story. And she was my friend. And because we also knew each other, she bartended down at Rocking R for a while I was down there. So we knew each other a little. Right. And then she just started kind of like talking about how that's her favorite place. And so we just talked every day. She was in LA at the time, focusing on, getting some of these surgeries that she needed to feel better. And we just started talking, and, like a message a day, big, long messages. And we just kind of fell in love with each other's personalities, so it was a long distance, like startup. And then we finally got to hang out physically, and it was just kind of like, sparks, and hasn't stopped since. So yeah, that's how I met her. But yeah, she'd be a very interesting guest, and she has a lot of cool, because she kind of has like a lot of stories about the pharmaceutical industry and all the different like horrible things she had to deal with in the healthcare system, as well as just her ability to cope. And she's a very smart person as well. She's got like almost photographic memory, so she's just a very interesting person.
How, you guys just got married recently?
Yeah, November. Yeah. So
congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. And so
when did you become a professional fighter?
So that was April of 2023.
Okay.
Yeah. So
so pretty recently.
Yeah. So right after the pandemic, shout out to the pandemic. We hadn't really got to train, so it was like was fucking itching to train. When we got back to training, I was like, yeah, I kind of want to fight. I want to fight again. At this point, I had been out of shape, kind of like whatever with the whole pandemic thing. And
what's your amateur and pro record now?
So my AMI record is 3-1. And so I'll tell the story about my L. And then I'm 2-0 as a pro with 2 first round finishes, and all my wins are finishes. I've only gone
by guillotine.
Yeah, almost. Yeah. And I've only gone to the second round once in my wins. I went 3 rounds and lost to this big dude. Right after the pandemic, I fought for the belt, for the fusion belt at 185, which I'm a welterweight. And he was just much bigger than me. It was a 4-week notice fight, and I'm definitely not going to take anything away from me. He was way better. I had not really done much striking during the pandemic, and I was like just slower to each punch, and I was eating a lot of punches. I got TKO'd. I was still like awake. Like the ref hopped in. He was like, dude, you're eating too many shots. I mean, dude, like my mouthpiece came out and I like was like trying to grab it and I was getting hit. Like it was just like one of those fights where
I really want to keep my teeth.
Yeah, I was like, oh, yeah, like literally, I was like, fuck, this sucks. I don't want to lose my teeth. And like, we went to like, I think it was the 3rd round of a 5-round fight, and he was just a monster. And I couldn't take him down. I didn't even try and shoot to the legs because I was like, oh, I don't want this dude on top of me. Because I tried to take him down with like a judo sweep early, and he didn't budge. And I was like, there goes one of my big plans. So we just ended up so we just had like a war on the feet, and I can't even kick very well because my hips are just dicked up from the military. So I was just boxing, and I got kicked in the face and punched in the face so many times. Like it was an L. And when I lost, I was like, man, that wasn't as bad as you fear. And so I was like, I could keep doing this. And
you mean to your pride?
Yeah. To my ego. My ego was like, gosh, I never could have even fathomed losing because, I had wrapped my whole identity up in being this like unstoppable kind of figure in my own head. You know what I mean? And when I lost and all my loved ones were still there and
everybody still cared about you. You still had friends.
Everybody, still had friends.
Still had a job.
And people were like, dude, good for you for sticking in there, and you tried, and like, and you think this loss is going to be the end of you somehow, and it just wasn't. And I was like, wow, that makes me feel like I can do this again. And so then I had a fight in 2023. It was like the co-main event on campus, and then I fought again in 2024 in April this year, and got another guillotine. They were both guillotines in the first like minute. And right now I'm not sure how many fights I have left. Now that I'm pro, it's like I really am focusing on trying to get my hips to open so I can kick higher than somebody's knee, because right now I can't even kick. And once you get to the pro level, it's kind of a problem, I feel, to just not be able to defend yourself properly with kicks. And so if I'm able to unlock my hips within the next year, then I will definitely continue. But for now, I'm just focused on making the best martial artists and people possible out of Montana MMA and on the road to my black belt. And that is the goal. Yeah.
Awesome.
Sick.
That's cool.
Yeah, dude.
What do you like to do for fun besides choke people out and put them in guillotines?
It's mostly choke people out, but I like to I like to hunt. I like to fish. I like to snowboard. I like to swing dance. My wife kind of helped me get some moves going, and so now it's a little more fun. And then, other than that, I mean, that's
a
lot of stuff. Right? Yeah.
I mean,
I tried playing soccer again, and I was so slow. It was crazy.
I was just gonna say, you should talk to Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, you can
play soccer.
So I'll hit you up indoor in the winter.
Yeah, I'd love that. Yeah,
so we play Friday nights.
Yeah,
and it's like, it's not,
it's
I'm
not
37.
crazy. Yeah.
I play co-ed soccer, so
Right.
shout out to myself for playing co-ed
Shout out to Kyle's self.
So it's not that competitive, but it is a shitload of fun.
Yeah, dude.
So yeah, Friday nights, indoor soccer in the winter is cool, and then I got a team I play on the outdoor. So.
Sick, dude. Yeah, I went and played on campus, and it was like there's like 10 like jack Nigerian dudes there, and they're all fast as fuck. And I was like, oh, I'm like 200 pounds now. Like when I was a soccer player, I was like 170 pounds.
What do you weigh now?
200 pounds.
Okay, yeah. So
it's not.
You're not.
I'm not moving very fast.
Yeah.
I'm not juking.
Right. It's kind of hard to defend when somebody like side to side.
Yeah, I was like positionally and tactically, I'm still quite sound.
Sure.
So I was able to like keep up a little bit, but yeah, I mean, I was getting sore.
We'll put you. You're playing stopper.
Yeah, dude. Put me at center back. I'll just barely move. We're good to go there. But yeah, no, it's definitely something I'd like to get back into a little bit.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a lot, snowboarding, hunting, fishing.
Yeah. I think
swing dancing.
Yeah, I'm not very good at the hunting and fishing, but that's something I've just recently tried to get good at, and so I like to shoot.
When did you start getting all the tattoos?
Oh yeah.
Got any good stories about those?
Not really, man. I mean, I think
you thought they looked cool, and you're like, dude, let's put them on.
I think that's the story I'm going to go with.
And they do look cool.
Yeah, thank you, dude. So like, I think I heard people, whenever I hear people talk about like what each tattoo means, I'm like, gosh, dude, shut up. Like they look cool, dude. Okay. And like, and I'm not saying that people don't have meaning. I'd say I have a little bit. And I have had stories for all my tattoos. I have like 20 tattoos. I'm pretty covered. So I can put a story to each one, but
you don't need to.
I don't really feel like I actually, I just was like, this is what I want. And, I have like a Marine Corps tattoo, and I have some shit for my like platoon, like the cat.
Mm-hmm.
We're all mad here. And I have some like Disney, kind of scary looking Disney tattoos. And I liked the vibe that I could be like externally, maybe give people one impression, but internally in who I actually was, give them the opposite impression. So that oxymoron duality that we're talking about is like, maybe look one way, and then let your actions and your character speak that you are the opposite of perhaps what people might think you are.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that idea. And so I wanted to look like a, tatted up guy that like maybe looked intimidating. I'm not saying that I do, but, had that aura slightly, but be as nice and welcoming and loving as possible to contradict, people's first impression. Yeah.
So yeah. Sometimes I try to do that, and I'm terrible at it.
Just trying.
I just want to be like really nice, friendly guy, and I'm like sitting there just like a resting dickhead face.
Yeah.
People are like, "Why do you look so mad?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm good. Like, what are you talking about?"
Dude,
shit.
I'm
I was
so
sitting
happy.
there, with my arms crossed like this, staring that person down for the last 5 minutes, and they're asking me, I'm like, "I don't know. I'm cool. I'm good."
Yeah. I think it's.
I forget.
Yeah.
Forget it's okay now.
Well, and there's certain circumstances where, dude, you can't hide the resting bitch face or whatever you want to call it, like where you're just like not impressed with the situation. I mean, there's just situations where you cannot hide that, and that is fair.
There's a video, it's on YouTube or something. Somebody asked Tom Hardy why he has all tattoos, and he's like, "Because I'm scared." He's like, life's scary, and I'm just like trying to be tough and look tough, man. I'm scared, that was his answer to why he has all his tattoos or what they mean. I was like, whoa, you did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's kind of deep. I mean, like for me, like it was about, like I kind of, felt like I didn't get bullied or anything, but I felt like disrespected, growing up in high school, just because, like people would refer to like soccer players as like field fairies and things like that. And it just made me mad, dude. And I was like, I always thought of myself as a tough person. So I kind of like had the intention of always becoming a tough and like intimidating person to an extent, so that I didn't have to deal with things that made me feel uncomfortable, I guess. And so I was scared of like what people would, say about me and things like that. And as you grow older, you realize it doesn't matter that much. But in those like developmental years, like, you know, it matters what other people think of you, and do they respect me, or do they think I'm a joke? So you want to like create this tough exterior so that people, you know, like think twice about, you know, how they're going to treat you. And so, you know, but after, you know, again, like the martial arts gets you into that humble space where you don't feel that way anymore. And that all of that was, that tough exterior stuff was, it was a defense mechanism early on. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it makes sense for, I'll just speak for adolescent males. I mean, I think part of just growing up is like, you have to prove to yourself that you are something or you are not.
Yeah.
Forget everybody else, right? Like, you may be doing it, you think you're doing it to prove other people wrong.
Yeah.
But you're actually trying to prove it to yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
True.
And so like, you may not even realize that.
Right.
And so years will go by and you're like, no. I was trying to prove this to myself that I could do something, couldn't, or I was just testing my own boundaries. And so I think adolescent males spin their wheels, right, and expend a lot of energy trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
And so you can try to figure that out in athletics. You can try to figure it out by drinking. You can try to figure it out by, you know, and you kind of are just experimenting for years.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I have a good example of that is like my dad, like I said before, he was a very cool, stoic guy, you know, but he was a badass, like hard worker, rugby, hockey guy, just a tough dude. Grew up in the streets of Belfast. He's kind of like an Irish gangster, you know, so I always like had this like feeling of inadequacy, and like, you know, he never like projected it on me. It was me, like being his son, being like, man, I have to live up to this man, like that I respect so much. And so like throughout my adolescence, like it was like, you know, trying to figure out like what can I do to be as tough and as just like cool of a guy as him. And so like it was a lot of like, yeah, experimenting, soccer, boxing, then now MMA. You know, I wanted to go build homes with him because he was just building all the time. So I'd build homes with him, and the Marine Corps, just all these things that like I wanted him to think that I wasn't a soft Dorcas dude. And like he never really said that to me. He never even projected it to me. But yeah, like you said, it's something that is within yourself that you are trying to prove to yourself is not the case. Yeah.
Yeah. And I like, if you're talking about like building homes or something like that, there's something about the strength in knowing how to do something like that is so powerful.
For sure.
Because if you think about like what are you actually doing? Well, you're building like a shelter.
Yeah.
Right. And you're building a safe place for a family to live in, right? Or a community.
Yeah.
You're building a community. And so I don't know, you know, that's got to be something that's, you know, so powerful.
Yes.
To learn how to do that. And so of course you would be attracted to, I want to go learn how to, my dad knows how to do these things.
Yeah.
I want to learn how to go do these things.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, the primal need to provide, you know, money, shelter, and things like that for a family. Like that is ultimately who I've become. And I hope to replicate as well as my dad did. You know, and when you build a shelter and it brings in income for your family, you're fulfilling like two of those, you know, giant primal archetypes where you need to be that headstone for the family, and it fills that void. Because I feel like if men don't, you know, check off some of those like primal needs, like providing a house, like providing security and being a protector, they will feel empty. And so, you know, anyone who's like young and listening or anything like that, and they feel a void, like I know we all feel some type of void sometimes, I've found in my life that if you try and scratch off some of those things that are quite primal, like providing food, shelter, that you can fill that void and feel valuable. And, like, I think suicide's like the second highest way people die in America now.
And we have, I think Montana's now the highest rate of suicide for males in the country.
Way higher in men than women.
Yeah, and what that is, I would say,
in Montana.
Or just in general, though.
Yeah, but yeah, that's true. But in Montana, I think it's the highest. We have the highest rate of suicide for males in the country.
Yeah, that's sad. And what that is, in my opinion, again, like, I'm not an high intellect. I've just always pursued my philosophy in athletics, but I feel that it is that void of feeling important to your community, or not chasing that goal of having a family unit it is just ingrained in us. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that people that are devoid of that or purpose, because it doesn't have to be a family, it could be community, but I find that driving yourself towards both of those things fills that void. And as long as you feel that you are valuable within that space of family or community, that you are safe from those self-destructive thoughts. So I think it's important for people to think about that.
Even when you were talking about fighting too, though, when you lost and it wasn't like the world didn't end, I think there's so much satisfaction in just having the balls to do it.
Yeah.
It's you realize even then, because when I've lost competitions, I'm like, I had the nerve to do this.
Yeah.
Overcome all the anxiety and just get out here in front of people and put myself on the line. And there's so much satisfaction in that. And
there is.
The winning's almost indifferent.
It is.
It's great when you win, but it's great to have the goal to win.
Yeah.
But if you don't, it's just that satisfaction of testing yourself and doing something. And
yeah. And I think I didn't realize that until after that, like everyone was, I think, like the worst is your family seeing you get beat to a pulp. But when they saw me like smiling and I was just like, oh, that was fun. Like I genuinely had fun in that fight. Like, I don't look at that as like a dark moment in my life. I look at that as like a moment of like me showing my resilience and also proving to myself, like, dude, I'm like, you can punch me and it's going to take a lot to put me out and to stop me coming forward, and just to be able to prove that to yourself and to your loved ones, regardless of how, it might make them feel in the moment, I think is valuable and fulfilling. Like you said, like the jiu-jitsu losses, like you are always going to feel proud of the fact that you had the balls to step up to a level where people are going to be watching and putting your body on the line.
Yeah.
I
think that's why the jiu-jitsu guys and gals love to hug each other so much after. Mm-hmm. I guess MMA fighters do too. You just like, yeah, we both went through this.
Yeah,
I get it. Like,
yeah,
nice work.
I'd be a terrible like heel if I was in the UFC or like a media heavy MMA thing, because I'm just like, oh, dude, slapping everybody's hand. I'm just stoked to be here, and like I'm always friendly to my opponents because I'm just happy they signed the contract and we get to put on a show for people. We get to, put our reputation on the line. We get to show what we're made of, what we've learned, and I got nothing but love for fighters. I would be a horrible like heel.
Was it Holloway and Gaethje that fought and they just couldn't stop saying nice things about each other? I think it was them. I can't.
Well, yeah, Gaethje, Holloway, Poirier, for the most part. Like there's guys that they just love to fight, and
they just like, can't stop saying something nice about their opponent that they're just lost to or beat.
Yeah, Mike Chandler's kind of like that.
Yeah,
I mean, I'd just be a horrible heel in that sense, like because I am honestly just stoked to share the ring with somebody who's got balls to get in there, and so win or lose, I think it's always a valuable experience. And that goes for work too. Like if you take on a big project and it doesn't go swimmingly, and maybe you don't make as much money as you thought you were going to, but you get the job done and there's hiccups along the way, you're still going to feel like a sense of pride, and you're going to learn from that experience a whole bunch of things. And your next one's probably going to be much more profitable.
Yeah.
And, that's just a good way to live, is to to put yourself in situations where you'll fail and you might come up short, but now you have the data to improve upon that and make your life better and other people's lives better from that data. And that's, you know, that's a gift, right? And that goes back to this like duality. Like your losses can actually propel you to, you know, elevated heights of success because you learn what not to do in the next cycle.
Yeah, it's almost kind of weird if you win all the time. You don't have the duality of a loss, and you're so lopsided.
You'll ultimately lose.
Yeah.
Meaning like at some point you're going to lose, right?
What if it's not your fault? You're just such a specimen. You can't help winning.
Whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Some people be like that, but dude, that's part of the problem.
You'll lose in a different way, right? Like you'll lose in a different way in life, right? Like let's just say you're a crazy good fighter, right? Like I don't know, maybe your marriage will fall apart, you know, and you're like, well, you lost that, right? So like, you know, like, and I'm not. That's a hypothetical situation, but I think what you said earlier makes a lot of sense. You said that, you know, what you want in the moment, you know, may not come to fruition or may not come true, right?
Yeah.
But you know, a year later, you're gonna learn, you're gonna have succeeded, right? And so I think the moment can be today. Mm-hmm. It could be this week. It could be this month. It could be this year.
Yeah.
Right. And you can have a tough year, and you're like, I'm getting the shit kicked out of me in all aspects of my life this year.
Yeah.
But next year, things are going to get better.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I mean, when I kind of chose to just pursue like just being a coach, like the money was tough, you know, and like me and my wife now were like in a serious relationship. Yeah. I mean, it was like,
it was tough. The money sucked.
It was tough. Like, yeah. And so it was like, you know, I was having a hard time filling that, like that provider role. And, you know, and luckily, like, you know, she's very like independent and is able to like do a lot of things on herself. But like that hole in me for not being able to provide the way I would like to, you know, in my 30s was a hard hill to cross. But, you know, sticking with it, you know, since I've gotten a lot of private clients, and that has put me at a place where now I can do my passion, and I can provide. And that is like, I'm so thankful for that. And I had to go through the like 2 years of just like, well, money is not coming in really, like, besides surviving. And so I'm just grateful that we are now at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, because that was the other thing is it's just, you know, for us having a family is like it's not the same as everybody else's journey because of, you know, the car accident that she was in. Like, we have to go through IVF and the surrogate route. So it's like, in order to create this like beautiful family that we have talked about, like, I have to bring in, you know, more money than is normal. And so does she. And so we had to work really hard to get to this point where we're finally able to, you know, have our first baby. And it's a blessing. It was a lot of hard work, and it was in a period where it's like, man, am I doing the right thing? But I think that God did give me a sign, and he was like, you know, after 2 years of just sticking to the same thing, he was like, here you go. Here's some money. Like, you can do this. And like, you know, we had a fundraiser at our last fight, and we made like $15,000, and then I made another like $5,000 just off table sales. And so we ended up making like $20,000 in a day. You know what I mean? It's just like, and that's when you're kind of like, is God's telling me that I'm doing the right thing? And we didn't even think we didn't ask to be put on the stage. And, you know, my wife like spoke to the thousands of people that were there. We didn't ask for that. Fusion and, you know, Brian Dietz kind of corresponded with each other, and they decided that we were a worthy cause to donate to. And these things just kind of happen, and you have to believe like, okay, like, I'm on the right path, because I didn't expect any of that to happen. And so sometimes like sticking through those hard moments, I know it's like hard for everybody, but that's what ends up bringing you the success and the beauty that your life, you know, deserves.
Yeah.
Word.
Want to wrap it up?
Word up. Yeah, that's a good spot.
Yeah.
Do you prefer Chris or Christian?
So yeah, that's actually a question I don't even know the answer to, because
if you don't know, then
yeah, my mom calls me Chris, and she named me, dude. So Christian. I'll go Christian. I introduced myself as Christian, so we're just going to say Christian.
Okay.
Christian, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, cheers.